Hi, I'm Phil Ramsey, author of Billibonk and the Thorn Patch, and this is a video for parents who are wondering how they can use the story to help their children learn about complex systems. I wrote Thorn Patch when I was teaching systems thinking to postgrad students at the university where I work. At the same time, I had young children, and as a parent, I thought my children needed to understand interconnectedness. I could see that systems thinking would help them with their decision making as they went through life. If you're a parent, I'm sure you feel the same way, that you want your children to learn how to think clearly about complex problems. And I hope the adventures of Billibonk and Frankl can help with that. Keep in mind that from a systems point of view, it would make no sense to see the book as a solution in itself, as something that you can hand off to a child and then everything will be fine. Your child will interact with the book in a unique way. Different children will take different lessons from the same story. Their personalities, what's going on in their lives at the time that they're reading, all of that is going to shape connections they make, points that stand out to them. As an author, I've been surprised to hear of unexpected aha moments that kids have had. And as a parent, you are also a key part of your child's learning system. Your child may ask you questions based on what they've read. You get opportunities to underline important lessons or help them make application to problems they encounter. You can supplement key ideas from this story with stories of your own, of your family history. There's a lot that you can do to help your child learn to see systems at work in the world around them. The point of this video then is to give you some ideas of ways you can use Billibonk and the Thorn Patch to help your child. Keep in mind, this video is not here as a curriculum that has to be learned or a lesson plan that has to be followed. If Thorn Patch helps you to have one or two conversations that help your child's understanding to grow, then that's a success. The point of the book and the point of the video is to make learning enjoyable. In the video, I'll review some of the system principles that underpin the story. I'll talk too about a couple of activities you could do with your child and suggest some questions you could use to generate a conversation. Thorn Patch is based around a conflict between the elephants and the mice. I like to capture the dynamics of what's happening using causal loop diagrams. I'll show these as we talk about the story. You may be used to using these already. The arrows indicate causality. One thing causes another. These diagrams helped me to create the plot for the story, and they can help you to understand what's going on. In the story, the elephants and the mice find themselves in an escalating conflict. Each group is trying to get ahead of the other. Mice are concerned that elephants are going to make life impossible for them, so they try to get on top, using some trickery, it turns out. Their trickery works, but their victory puts them on top of this conflict. But that just provokes the elephants to put the mice in their place. I'm sure you've seen plenty of similar situations. The elephant's victory is going to keep the whole conflict rolling. Now, most of the elephants and mice in the story don't see the whole picture. Mice don't realize that their victories make the elephants want to fight back. And the same is true for elephants. They just aren't seeing the whole system. Elephants can see that mice provoke them, but they don't see how they provoke the mice. Mice and elephants, they can all see how others make the conflict worse, and everyone can justify their own actions. What Frankl and Billibonk realise, though, is that they need to break out of this cycle of escalation. Another aspect of the story we can diagram is the monkey business, where the monkeys saw they could get elephants to do the hard work of collecting fruit, while they get to do the easy work of de-seeding the yakka. Lots of monkeys wanted to be in on the business. The elephants thought it was fine at first, but eventually they wore out. What went wrong? Well, this is a systems pattern, sometimes called the tragedy of the commons. Here's how it works. In the diagram, you can see two monkeys, each demanding that the elephants find fruit for them. The more the monkeys demand, the more fruit they get. It's a reinforcing cycle. When they get more fruit, they make more demands. But these demands all add up. The total demand being placed on elephants keeps increasing. And it gets worse when other monkeys also join in. In the diagram, you can now see a couple more monkeys are adding their demands. Let's look at how this becomes a tragedy. Well, the monkey demands keep on growing, but elephants have a limited capacity for getting fruit. They haven't got an infinite amount of energy, they get tired, and it gets harder and harder to collect fruit. They have to travel further and further. So as the total amount of demanding increases, the elephant capacity stays the same or maybe even decreases. The monkeys start to get less fruit every time they make a demand. Now, why is that a tragedy? Well, how do the monkeys respond? By demanding less? No, they are used to having elephants bring them fruit. Now they're getting less than they used to. They make even more demands than ever. Demands from each monkey keep increasing, the total demands keep increasing. Eventually the elephants are just too exhausted. For the monkey business to work long term, there needed to be some way to make sure that the total demands don't go beyond the elephant capacity. That was never going to happen with these characters. But what's the point? What might you want to explore with your child? Well, this is a pattern that goes beyond this story. With any valuable resource, we have to be careful that it doesn't get exploited. Individual people, like individual monkeys, may all want their share of a resource, but don't see the whole picture. They don't see how everyone taking what they think is fair to them adds up to more than the resource can handle. We've looked at two common patterns you find in systems. In both cases, the people, or the elephants and mice, anyone who is caught up in the system, can easily see a small part of what's going on, but will struggle to see the whole picture. What activities might help your child understand these principles? Well, a basic activity is to tell a story of something that has happened to you. Show that the conflict between elephants and mice is similar to something you've experienced. And maybe how you have had to learn the same lesson as Billibonk and Frankl. Another activity would be to investigate together the origin of the tragedy of the commons. Where else have people used that term? Can you find examples of people who realised they had to change what they were doing so they didn't use up an important resource? This could be something operating at a large scale, like fishing stocks in the ocean. Or it could be something that your local community has had to manage, maybe even a resource that's important to your family. See what you can find together. Did you notice in the story that the elephants didn't really know where their food came from? They didn't realise that eating seeds was an important part of the process that produced trees. Perhaps you can explore where your family food comes from. Finally, one of the best ways to help your child learn is to ask them questions that get you into a conversation. Merrily Adams is an expert on questions. She makes a distinction between learner questions, as the name suggests, questions designed to help people learn, and judger questions, questions that make people feel that they are under attack. So we want to use learner questions. Questions you could use, well, they might be, what did you think of the story? Have you ever been in a conflict, the way the mice and the elephants were? Why do you think Frankl wanted to stop it from going further? What could have happened if it didn't stop? Why do you think the monkey business didn't work? You can use questions like this to start a conversation or to lead up to an activity. Of course, don't overwhelm your child. Don't use questions as if they are a test. Aim to make sure your child enjoys being able to learn alongside you. I hope you enjoy reading Billibonk and the Thorn Patch in your family, and I hope this video has given you some ideas for how you and your child can get more from the book. Happy learning.